This is Matthew McConaughey.
Natalie Portman.
James Patterson.
Michael Ian Black.
And you are listening to
Five Questions
with Dan Schawbel.
Welcome to Five Questions, Rob.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's so great to have you here. You're an extremely thoughtful and talented human being with, entrepreneurial spirit, as well as a big media presence and a back history with skateboarding. So in your early 20s, you gained fame as a professional skateboarder and were able to travel the world and have this incredible life. Despite the newfound success, why wasn't skateboarding fulfilling your purpose and fulfillment in life?
Well, I don't know if it was necessarily about the purpose and fulfillment that I was seeking, as much as I knew early on I was just passionate about creating and bringing ideas to life. I just happened to look at myself as a brand at a really early age. And I was around when I turned pro when I was 16. I was around when we created the Alien Workshop, and that was the company I turned pro for. Then I was around when DC Shoes created and designed the first skateboarding athletic footwear and watched that explode. Like, it wasn't as much about like the sport itself not giving me fulfillment, but I began to grow out of it because my true passion was creating and bringing ideas to life. And I had maxed out what was possible within skateboarding itself.
Yeah, no, that's very thoughtful and a good reflection. And that's actually the origins of my career, is focused on personal branding. I used to call it self-marketing. And then when I graduated college, one day after work, I was so bored in my full-time job. I had like a 8-hour session where I had to learn all these products and services, like thousands of them. And I came home and I'm like, there has to be something better, in the world for me. And I found personal branding, an article called The Brand Called You in Fast Company that was written 10 years prior. And it basically reaffirmed everything that I was thinking about of, hey, you're your own brand. You're the chief marketing officer for The Brand Called You. You need to be able to sell yourself and your abilities. And I think that, you figured that out early, and that has led to enormous amounts of success, because it is a skill set that you gain, and it's a mindset that you have that leads to creating those opportunities. And you're part skater, part TV personality, and part entrepreneur. How are you able to turn your success as a skateboarder into a series of TV shows and into multiple businesses with multiple business partnerships?
Well, look, I think the reality of it is I was raised by entrepreneur wolves, so I, at 14, I called, I skated for the local skate shop, and the founders started all these companies. And then when I turned pro, he connected with the group that I was sponsored by from California, and they came back to Ohio and started a company again. So even as I was turning pro and I was tracking all my own finances and considering myself the brand at that early age, I was still watching companies get created. I built my first company when I moved to California when I was 18 years old, that I created soup to nuts with a manufacturer. And then my skateboarding career led to launching DC Shoes, and then the DC Shoes video led to I wrote a skit for the skate video about me bringing a security guard to deal with security guards when I went and skated. And then that evolved into a television show on MTV. And then I got that MTV platform, and then I used that platform to launch multiple businesses out of. And that whole time I was constantly creating and building different businesses through the MTV platform while being a pro skateboarder, while creating new television shows, so what? For me, this idea of, whether it was being a pro athlete or a television personality, business has always been the through line. And how do I maximize the opportunity that's presented to me, whether that was the skateboarding market in my 20s or the mainstream market that I got from the MTV platform that I got to follow up behind and launch a ton of different companies from.
And they're all circulating in this Dyrdek machine that you've created. Multiple businesses. You have your arms in many, many things now, unlike many when you first started, of course. And you're kind of like this master of leverage, and I like to think about this in the same way. And we talked about this long-term plan. Like, this is our forever goal and vision, and thinking about the future. And any new opportunity you gained that led to the next thing. But it wasn't just organic. You were thoughtful about it, because it's also, you use your creative energy to think about how to make it unique and appealing to the audience, and then how to leverage that in order to build maybe a new business relationship that led to something else, So as much as there was a natural progression, there was also a high degree of thought when it came to that decision making of who to partner with, what industries to get into, what to stay away from. So I give you a lot of credit for that degree of thought and kind of riding waves, but also creating your own waves. And you've brought your family and friends with you, much like we've seen in HBO's Entourage series. How has involving your best friend and cousins in your projects deepened your relationship with them? And what have you taught them that has helped improve their careers?
I think for me, it's more, I could never take credit for what my cousin has done. I mean, he ultimately learned business the hard way and really fought to figure everything out, and really developed his own and entrepreneurial spirit, just watching how that I've done it. And for me, I just think, as it relates for any business and anything that you create, at the core of it being fun to do is meaningful relationships, right? The great Ray Dalio will tell you, at the end of the day, it's these meaningful relationships that you are building along the way that actually is the most enjoyable part of almost anything that you create. And I think for me, I've always been really clear on that, and really doing the diligence and the assessment of any project that I take on, that the group that I'm doing it with, that we generally connect as human beings, and we have alignment on the vision of what we hope to achieve and what each person will expect to achieve from it when it happens, which has allowed me, whether it's creating businesses through the Dyrdek machine and done more in this sort of clear idea of like, we build everything for a acquisition event, right? At the end of the day, it's still venture capital, and I'm still trying to get a return on my money invested, right? I'll judge myself by that ROI and that IRR, right? But at the end of the day, in my diligence period, when it's like right before I pull that trigger to decide, am I going to create this project with this individual? It is really boiling down, do I want to be connected to them for life? I call it build together, bound forever, right? And so if I cross that threshold, you're now part of like my legacy for the rest of my life, right? So it's super important to me. And ultimately, I am passionate, I am driven, I am focused, I am clear, but I want to enjoy everything that I do more than anything. And anytime I get through a process of someone that I just can see it's rubbing the wrong way, or potentially our energies aren't connecting, then I just won't do it,
And it's going to get a lot worse too, meaning that if you see something early on, that just spirals and spirals and spirals, and that can completely blow up on you. And since you have so many different projects and responsibilities, that can disrupt everything you're doing. So even if it's a small company and one entrepreneur, that toxic relationship can pollute your Dyrdek machine as a whole.
And your life as a whole, right? Like any of those things will get you,
And I think people realize that, especially over the past year during the pandemic, is work and life are so intertwined. Whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're just a remote worker at any size company, your bedroom could be your office too, right? And so you bring all of your issues with you into your personal life, and your personal life into work. And I think that's important. You have your hands in so many different projects now, with so many business and projects happening simultaneously. How do you manage your time and decide what to invest in and divest in?
Yeah, look, I look at life as this series of interconnected systems, right? That all need to be aligned, be integrated, and all expanding in the same direction. And that direction is towards your ideal life. Right? You want to grow into becoming the ideal version of what you can see for yourself. And so for me, like, part of that is mastering time and energy. So, there is no aspect of now, I'm someone that tracks every single hour of the day, right? Like I put a little tag to every single hour of the day, and I could output what I did all of 2020. And it would show you that I spent 7 hours sleeping, 2 hours working on my physical body, 7.5 hours with my family and friends, and 7.5 hours working. And I'm, it's an extraordinarily amount of discipline to live like that, but it's balanced life by design. It's choosing the right projects and how you actually live in those projects by design. It's creating systems and automation around you that allows you to have as much energy as possible, be as balanced as possible, but still achieve the great things you've had envisioned for yourself along the way. And so I apply that to everything. The way that I create companies is fully systematized, right? The way that I shoot television is fully systematized and automated. Like my entire existence, I have a 80-page document called The Rhythm of Existence that is the operating system for my life that's ran by 3 or 4 assistants. And this is, food comes in and haircut shows up today at 9:30 and food delivery comes in and the coffee's made in the morning and it's a daily call at 9. It's a weekly call with the wife and the assistants on Fridays. It's like all of this stuff to keep your time and energy mastered. Because at the end of the day, your energy is basically everything that you have. And that excitement about life and living and going from one thing to the next and absolutely enjoying everything you're doing is really what I'm hoping to achieve for the rest of my life,
Yeah. And your calendar, everyone lives and dies by their calendar. If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist. And so I always tell people, well, construct your calendar so it maximizes every aspect of your life. Like intentionally block off an hour to call your parents, like you can block off an hour for exercise. Like you're in control more so than you think. And so when you look at your calendar, if this is something that is kind of having governance over your life, well, be more thoughtful about what you're putting on it. And I think that's really important. And then the systems part is smart, right? Because systems allow you to scale. And because you are someone who has these big dreams, you want to get involved in a lot of things, and you're thinking 5, 10, 30 years in the future, you need to establish the systems because that frees up time and energy so you can start to reallocate that to other things. So I really love that. And what's your best piece of career advice?
I think the best piece of career advice for anybody is you're not building a career, you're building a life, and it's the balance between who you are as a person, your passions, your physical, your strength, your happiness, like who you are as a person, what fulfills you, then what you do, your career, but ultimately it's money and the way that you earn a living that feeds that purpose and who you are, and then how you want to live, right? Who you are, what you do, and how you want to live have to be seamlessly integrated and balanced in order to have a great life. So if you love spending time with your family and golfing the most, and you should have a job that supports like you being able to do that and live the lifestyle that you want, because that gives you the most self-fulfillment for yourself and self-worth on who you are, what you do, and how you live. So to me, I think a lot of times people, rather than looking at your self as this multidimensional being that requires sort of all of these different aspects in order to be happy and balanced, and that they look towards the career as like, if I just have this career, then I'll feel good about myself, then I'll start taking care of myself, then I'll be able to find the person that I want to be with and live the lifestyle I want. Like they just focus in on thinking the career is going to be the answer for the life that they want. Your career will never be the answer. It will be a part. And if it is integrated into who you are and how you live, then you will truly be balanced and happy.
Yeah, it is really true. And especially now, a lot of people, their work is such a part of their identity. And that's part of what's led to the burnout crisis that people are experiencing, at least in America. And I think that if you look at things more holistically, like you have, is everything's interconnected. And it's not just about a career. Career is like one part of the mosaic, right? Like projects are part of that even. and that you have to look at things at a bigger picture. Then you're going to start to see how everything connects and focus on, living a better life, which includes career. So, I really appreciate this conversation, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.